evening. I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Thank you for joining us this evening. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special thank you. CWS is about having conversations with people about their journeys and how they're using their gifts and talents to help each other. As such, I am always looking for people who are doing extraordinary things or doing things extraordinarily well. Each week I come here having a conversation with someone, not only to highlight their successes, but sometimes to invite them to share some of their challenges and how they overcame them, how often they got up when they fell. Because you see, I believe when we share our stories, it is what best connects us as human beings. And imagine our guest is a young lady, a student in college. And I'm especially happy to have her on the show to share with us her experiences in college, her experiences in life. And I think that is very important to encourage other young people to not only go to college, but to have the courage to to stick with it, to persevere. I am excited to start this conversation. So I'll take a short break and I'll introduce. We are back. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. The lovely young lady next to me is Courtney Roach. Courtney, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Selwyn. How are
And
you?
I am fine, thanks, and welcome to CWS.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here. It's an honor, actually.
This is wonderful. I'm just going to read a little bit of your bio and then we'll get started, okay?
Sounds great.
Courtney Roach started her musical flute studies at age 7 at the Brooklyn College Preparatory Center, and in addition to numerous recitals, has performed at several local community functions under the direction of Dr. Valerie Holmes. Courtney was also selected to participate at the Suzuki National Flute Convention in Minnesota and the Boston Heritage Contest in 2011 while in high school. During the summers of 2008 and 2009, she attended the Lake Luzerne Music Center camp. In addition to playing the flute, Courtney also enjoys playing the piano. She has just completed her second year studies at Trinity College, Hartford, Connecticut, where she's a member of the Chamber Music Ensemble. Courtney is also an active member within her college's multicultural community. She's the vice president of Trinity College Black Women's Organization, a group that aims to educate, unite, and empower women of color not only on the campus, but in the greater community. She is also an intern for the multicultural recruitment team in admissions and a Pride leader. And PRIDE stands for Promoting Respect for Inclusive Diversity in Education, an organization that trains upperclassmen to educate freshmen on issues of diversity as well as create and maintain a welcoming community for all. Courtney, where were you born and what was it like for you at the age of 17 and, sorry, the age of 7 and then at 16?
So I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I was raised there. I lived there all my life in East Flatbush in Brooklyn. And at age 7, I had just enrolled in private school at Berkeley Carroll, and I was a typical 7-year-old. My mother had enrolled me in both piano and flute lessons, so I was pretty involved in that. I didn't have much of a social life. It was just school, flute, and piano, actually.
Did you enjoy those days?
Um, at the time, I didn't really appreciate the flute and piano lessons. They were kind of a burden, and my mom had to force me to practice. But I do look back and thank her for it now. Most definitely.
So you started both at the same time, the flute and the piano?
Well, I actually started piano around the age of 4. And then as I got older, I started flute around 6. You can't really start flute too early because, you're not developed as much. But yeah, that's definitely.
Oh, how I wish you had a piano with you tonight.
Oh, I wish I did as well.
But we'll get you one day. You
One day,
you are a college student, and you believe that no matter how hard it is to find that there is always a support system, you just have to look for it. How have you experienced this in your own life?
Well, when I first came to this school, I didn't really know who I was or what I was looking for from my education here at Trinity. But I quickly got into the Pride program, which was a pre-orientation for first-year students. And when I got there, I found that although all these different kids came from all these different backgrounds, we had one thing in common, and that was that we were students of color on campus, on a predominantly white campus. And that was the first support system that I found here at this Trinity.
And
once I got,
sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, and once I got through the Pride program, I started meeting friends who I shared a lot of commonalities with, relationships that I couldn't find earlier in high school. And through that program, I started reaching out through other communities and other aspects on campus as well.
How are you enjoying college life? Is it fun? And what do you do for relaxation?
College is a lot. I just had 2 finals today, so today wasn't fun. But there is a lot to do on campus. We have movies that they offer. I like to hang out with my friends often, but it's work hard and play hard. So you work hard all throughout the week, and then weekends are time to relax. There's no playtime during the week for me.
Do you recall any words of wisdom from your parents that that have helped to shape who you are today?
My mom has always told me to stay true to who I am, and not let anybody steer me from what I've been taught. And that's something that's definitely shaped who I am. No matter where I go, who I'm with, I'm who I am, and I don't change for other people. And that's definitely shaped who I become.
So, if you were to eavesdrop a conversation where your mom is telling someone about you, what do you think that story will be?
My mom likes to brag about me. She always tells people I'm a musician because she's very proud of that. She didn't get that music background when she was younger, so that's part of the reason why she enrolled me in music lessons. And the fact that I excelled at it just makes her so happy. And she would also tell people that I'm driven, motivated, because I guess that I am. I try my hardest. I love pleasing my mom, so I just like to do that.
Before I get too much into the music part of it, I want to ask you this. You started playing the piano at age 4, and you said at that time you couldn't appreciate, mom sort of encouraging you to do this.
Right.
In those days, perhaps there was mom and maybe a music teacher or whoever that encouraged you or pushed you to practice.
Right.
Do you still need someone to push you to practice these days, or do you practice on your own?
With piano, I never really caught on with piano, so it forced me definitely to practice piano. However, flute, I found that I become much more independent. My flute teacher, she really inspired me, even from a young age, Dr. Valerie Holmes. She always helped me to push through my comfort zone. So I've been able to, I was shy when I started playing flute, but now, she had me go through, all these different competitions and performances. So I'm comfortable playing the flute to where it is. I play flute here at college, and my mom didn't tell me to take up ensemble lessons. That's not something that my old flute teacher pushed on me. It's something that I'm truly passionate about now, and that it's part of who I am. And I actually didn't take the ensemble class this semester because it didn't work with my schedule, and I missed it so much.
Do you recall at what particular point in your life that you realized you had an affinity for the flute, or you had a passion for it? When did that happen?
I want to say later on throughout high school, when I started doing more competitions, in school and out of school. With school, we went to like a chamber music, which is like an ensemble group, different instruments. We went to Boston and we performed and we got awards. It's when I started getting awards and people started telling me like, "Oh, you're good," or "Would you like to play at this such an event?" Um, Actually, one of the members of my church, she always used to have me perform at another church for their prayer breakfast. So every Saturday, actually, my little cousin and I, who also plays the flute, we would be booked. We would be at different breakfasts and performing and getting paid. And I think that's when I really started like, hey, this is something I like. It's not just because I was getting paid, but because it was something that clearly people appreciated.
Do you remember your first award and how you felt?
My first, sorry?
Your first award and how you felt?
I don't remember actually.
But there have been many.
Yes, definitely. Actually, I think maybe one of my first awards was I played at the New York City Flute Convention, and it's a competition for all young students to play. And at the end, they award you like a blue ribbon or a gold ribbon, and I had gotten a gold ribbon. So I think that was maybe the first time where I got an award. And I was really, like, wow, I should keep doing this.
Do you have a favorite piece, a favorite song you like to play?
I don't have a favorite piece, but I definitely have a favorite composer, Debussy, Claude Debussy. His music is kind of a little more like impressionistic, and I kind of like that more than like the classical music. But I am classically trained, so I don't really play like jazz or I just play classical music actually, mostly.
Is that your preference, or because you're trained that way you lean towards it?
Well, because that's how I was trained, it's kind of what I'm interested in. I actually just love classical music. I studied classical music. I listen to it frequently. So I think that's just what I like. It's different. Classical music is like take a break from everyday life. For me, it is.
It's when I'm talking to a student, is very difficult for me to ignore the school, the academics. And so, did you enjoy high school, and what was your favorite subject, and is it the same subject in college?
That's actually funny. In high school, my favorite subjects were science. I was very science oriented in high school, and a little bit of math as well. I was always kind of very good at math. So when I came to college, I'd actually taken a couple summers before I came to college. I did an engineering program at NYU Polytech in downtown Brooklyn, and I loved it. So I came into college like, I'm going to be an engineering major. And so my first semester, I enrolled in all engineering courses, physics, calculus, all the works, and I hated it. It's just the college level wasn't the same as the high school level, and it wasn't for me. So now I'm an economics major, which still doesn't involve a lot of math, but sciences we're totally cut out, which is surprising. I surprised myself.
Who would you say, apart from your parents, have greatly impacted your life?
Family members in general, aunts, uncles who've always been there for me, as well as, like I said, Dr. Valerie Holmes, who was my flute teacher. She was one of the first people who really did push me to be better and to do better. I would say she was the first person to really truly inspire me. And throughout high school, I had like amazing teachers that, once in a blue moon would just, every time you come across one teacher that really gets you, and that you build a special relationship with them. And I had a couple of those throughout high school where I found that we really connected, and they helped me further my academic career within high school.
What would you say you missed the most about high school?
Oh, I don't miss much about high school. In high school, what do I miss about high school? I was very free, easygoing. High school was very relaxed for me. It was almost easy. I excelled very well in high school, and I have to work a lot harder now in college. So I guess I missed that. I mean, I don't miss it because I wasn't that motivated. I was just, how things might just be easy for some people.
Right.
Academically wise, I wasn't pushed that much in high school. It was like I found what I was good at and I stuck with it. And now I've come out of my comfort zone, but I kind of miss that, easy, free going type of mindset that I had in high school. Naive, I guess.
What kind of material you prefer reading among magazine, books, editor? What is your preference?
I do like reading a lot of fiction, or also like reading. I just actually finished reading, what is it? Frederick Douglass, The Souls of Black Folk.
Uh-huh.
I actually really enjoyed that book. I had to read a similar book for class, and then a professor suggested it. So I kind of like reading also not just fiction, but also reading autobiographies. Because I feel like a lot of lessons can come out of autobiographies of just how to live and like how to succeed.
It's funny you mentioned Frederick Douglass, so it gives me a very good segue into my next question. You're at Trinity College, Hartford, Connecticut. And how did you end up there? And can you describe what it is like being a black student in a predominantly white college?
Right. Well, so the way I got to Trinity is, well, what I was attracted to at Trinity was a small community within this campus. I went to a very small high school. My graduating class was 50 students. So I was used to kind of that tight-knit community where professors and students had a really close relationship. And I was also looking for a school that was in a big city. And Hartford is a fairly big city. It's not comparable to New York, of course, but, you know, it has along the same line, the same feel. So I was drawn to Trinity. And I wouldn't say I was overwhelmed at first by the culture here at Trinity, because it's quite comparable to my high school, which was also predominantly white. But it's a little different when you're in college. When you're in college, it's a little more serious. You know, you realize things more. In high school, I was very naive to the fact that I was maybe one of 5 black girls in my grade. But here, it's a little more apparent. Just because the people that you hang out with, you know, the people you go to class with, or the classes that you take. Oftentimes I'm one of, you know, one black student in my class of maybe 30 kids. So it's a little more apparent that you're not alone, but you're the minority on campus.
Is it very distracting, and how would you describe some of your feelings?
I wouldn't say it's distracting. I wouldn't say that it's also like in your face all the time. There'll just be occurrences every once in a while where you're reminded that, you know, some people don't welcome you on campus, you know, or that, you know, that you are the minority. But I found that through what I do at Trinity College Black Women's Organization and through Pride, you know, I found a family away from home that, you know, kind of lessens the feelings of, you know, that you're one of just, you know, you're just one of a few here.
You know, I've read and looked at some tapes, some videos of or recordings of black students at predominantly black colleges, and you know, there's this one guy who said that sometimes he felt as though he has to represent the whole community. Do you ever get that feeling, especially in a class that deals with, you know, black history or so on?
Right. So last semester I took a class called Racism, and even though it was a class on racism, you know, the class was predominantly, you know, white students. And a lot of times, you know, the white students would look to the black students, you know, for reassurance. Is it okay for me to say this? Or, you know, they would look to me. Something that I find frequently is, as a black student on campus, you have to uphold your image more than maybe a white student would have to. Just because a lot of times they confuse you for someone else. So, you know, I have to make sure that I come good, because if I don't, then it makes everyone else look bad.
Is it burdensome sometimes?
I wouldn't say so much of a burden. I don't feel it so heavily, maybe because I'm used to it from high school, but it's sometimes you do feel it, especially like in the more social community. You know, if like you go to parties or that sort of thing, you know, you don't want to be crazy, you don't want to be that girl, you know, that black girl, you know, whereas, you know, other students might just do whatever they want or that sort of thing.
When we had our preliminary discussions, one of the things you alluded to is the importance of maintaining your identity, knowing who you are, and so you're not easily misled by others and so on. But even after 50 years after the Civil Rights Act has been passed, do you believe that black students is expected or should have a tough skin because the way the environment is today?
I do believe so. You know, racism is still very much alive as it was back then. So a lot of times some students do encounter things of prejudice that do require tough skin. A couple of months ago, one of a black student on campus who I'm actually friends with was targeted on a social media site, using the N word, just very derogatory. And in order to get through those things, you need to have tough skin. You have to be prepared for the fact that some people are racist and, they don't want you on their campus. Mm-hmm. So I would say that, being a black student or just being black in general, you requires to have tough skin in society.
And how would you say your toughness developed?
I'm tough, but I wouldn't say I've never been targeted directly, so I don't know how I would handle something like that.
Gotcha.
But I have, through the support systems that we talked about, I know that if something were like that to happen to me, I would know who to go to handle that situation, or I would know who to go to in order to have support emotionally.
That's wonderful. Let me shift gears a little bit, and then I'll come back to a few more on this particular subject here. In the chat room, Coco Coco somebody said, do you find the flute as being an avenue of relieving stress while in college?
Oh, I do. When I took the ensemble lessons last semester, it was a great break from all the academic stress that I had to do. Oftentimes, school gets to be a lot and you need some sort of, escape. And classical music is my escape. And playing music is an escape. And practicing now doesn't seem like back then, my mom had to yell at me to practice. Now it's more like, I feel like it's a way for me to express myself in a different way, in a unique way.
Do you have a particular composer in the era of Chopin and those guys that you go to when you want to relax?
In terms of listening or playing?
Playing.
I really do like Bach.
Mm-hmm. Why Bach? Why him?
Sorry?
Why Bach?
Yeah.
Why Bach? Why would you go to Bach?
Oh, why Bach? I don't know. I find his music very. There's something about Bach that just is very calming. I find his music, it's like, because I've studied music theory, I can almost anticipate what's to come in the upcoming measures and that sort of thing, and I really find that relaxing. Mm-hmm. But I don't really have a specific favorite. I usually just go to Pandora Music Station and just put on classical and just listen to anything, or I'll just pick up and play a piece that I already know. Nothing specific.
What is a typical discussion about diversity like? Does it usually turn into a political or ideological debate?
I don't think it has to. Sometimes it's just, a lot of times I find as a Pride leader, we live in freshman dorms. So oftentimes I'm interacting with not just students of color, but also, white students who want to learn about diversity. Mm-hmm. And often it's just explaining what diversity is, why it's important, and, how to be mindful of other people. So I don't think it has to be a political debate. Often it does, and sometimes that's great. But I don't think everything has to be a political debate. I think sometimes just educating each other and discussing ideas about diversity. And, diversity means different things to different people. So just discussing it is part of the battle.
And in a nutshell, what do you, in your opinion, what are some challenges on average black students face on a predominantly white campus?
I think it's hard. I think the hardest thing about being one of the black students on a predominantly white campus is the fact that you're not really represented on campus. There are not a lot of people for you to look up to, or a lot of people you don't really see yourself. As an economics major, there are not that many black students in my econ classes. So I don't really have a black mentor within, the economic department, because, black students just for some reason don't really venture into that department. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's hard. You can't really find people in your classes or advisors even that have that commonality with you. That's the biggest struggle, at least for me.
And what do you do, Courtney, when the going gets tough?
When the going gets tough. When the going gets tough, I go to my friends. I love my friends. The friendships I've created here are just fantastic. I feel like I can discuss anything with my friends to the point where they're my first go-to. And I think that's great because I didn't really have that in high school where people I could really talk about all of my issues with. Not that I'm saying that I have that many issues, but
you have this amazing way of giving me giving me a way into my questions.
Oh.
You said be strong in willpower, even when small in numbers. That's you. That's your statement.
I did say that.
How important is that to you, and how do you encourage other black students to adopt that attitude?
Well, I mean, as a black student on this campus, being small in numbers is something that's inevitable. So we have to be powerful. We have to make sure that our voices are heard. Recently, the new Student Government Association board was announced, and it's predominantly students of color, which is the first time that's happened since maybe like the 90s. So our voices are heard here. Students on this campus are active, and I think it's because, you know, people like me encourage other students to become a part of that black community. Just because we might be maybe 30 or 80, you know, only 30 or 80 of us doesn't mean that our opinions don't matter or that we can't make a difference. So I think that's very important.
Karen Wharton's asked, how often do you practice your flute? Do you regret not focusing heavily on piano?
I don't regret not focusing heavily on the piano just because I really enjoy the flute more. I don't practice my flute right now because it's at home, but I do wish it was here. I will definitely be playing more next semester as well.
And Karen Wharton again, why is it important to find black mentors, by the way?
Oh, I think it's important to find black mentors because if you don't have a black mentor, you know, it's hard to, black mentors are something that we can aspire to. And that's difficult, especially like in the business world. You know, there are not that many black people there for us, you know, younger people to look up to. And you need to find a point where you can reach to. And I found that not academically, but socially. I have a mentor, and she's everything. She works in the Office of Multicultural Affairs here, and she inspires me. She inspires me to be the best that I can. And she understands the things that I've gone through. Just because she actually attended Trinity a couple years ago, and she knows what it's like. And that's really important to me.
Let's take a quick break, but I want you to think about this question. As Vice President of Trinity College Black Women's Organization, how would you say both the organization and you have benefited from each other?
Okay.
All right. We are back with the lovely Courtney Roach. Courtney, you remember the question?
Right.
Okay.
So working with Trinity College Black Women's Organization, or as we call it, TCBO, has really helped me develop who I am. First and foremost, it's helped me establish myself as a leader within the community and within the organization. We've also done a lot of mentorship. We work with a local Girl Scout group, and they come often to campus, or we go to where they meet, and we talk, all their issues, or we just bringing them to campus and showing them, that they can aspire to come to Trinity too is a big deal for them. So that's something that I've definitely benefited as well, just seeing the smiles on their faces when we get to interact, as well as just establishing myself as a leader, because leadership qualities are so important. As how I've helped Trinity College, actually my position as vice president is new. This past semester I served as the social chair, and through that I helped promote events. I came up with events. which was just great because I got a lot of experience on figuring out, how to throw an event and how to execute an event. But it also just it gave me a lot of experience on meeting new people, and reaching out to other people, networking. So I just love being a part of Tasivo. I could rave on it about it forever.
Where did this passion for supporting women come from, and what was the trigger that started it all?
I don't, I think that the passion really came from when I came to campus and I came to a couple of events. And when I came to a couple of events, I was just very inspired by it. I wasn't really that active in high school in terms of, diversity or women or anything. But when I came here, and there was something about the organization, the events that they threw that very much made me want to be a part of it. And I saw that how these women carried themselves, and how they were seen on campus, and it's something that I wanted to be a part of.
Karen in the chat room asked, could you not be inspired by someone who is not black?
I definitely could be inspired by someone who's not black. I just think, like I mentioned earlier, I was inspired so much by my flute teacher. I just think when you have someone who is black, or someone who, someone who's black who's a mentor or a hero or someone that you look up to, it's easier they understand what you've been through. So it's easier to see your progression to where they are. I think it's easier in that sense. But academically, I also have a mentor who is white. She's my advisor. She supports me in every way academically. She checks in on me like every week or so. We have meetings. So she inspires me as well academically. I just feel like, as for me as a black woman, it's important for me to have a black woman who also inspires me, to show that black women can achieve greatness.
And I guess you just answered the next question from Kim. Asks, do you currently have mentors?
I do. Well, yeah, I have many mentors. I have mentors for different aspects of my life. Actually, I have a mentor within my peer community, older students on campus. Not just African American, but also students who just show a lot of leadership qualities. Then I have my academic advisor, and then I have the advisor who works in the Office of Multicultural Affairs, who also is a mentor. So I think having mentors for, not different reasons, but for different aspects of your life is good, because one person can't cover it all.
What are some principles you would like to share with your own daughter, when you do have one, or younger family or younger female cousins, that you have learned from your involvement in the Trinity College Black Women's Organization?
I think one of the things that I would definitely instill in anybody who's younger, a woman especially, is to be true to yourself and to be independent. Those two things are very important, not just for women of color, but for women in general, because women, of course, are also minorities, especially within the workplace. So I think it's very important for women or black women to be independent, to be leaders, because otherwise women are tend to be looked down upon. So we can show that we don't have to be bossy, but we can be, the boss, or we can be in charge, without having that, quality of it being a negative thing.
You're in an orientation organization, you said, on campus. Is that the correct term?
Which one are you referring to? The admissions or
admissions? Yes.
Admissions, right? I work in the multicultural recruitment team as an intern.
And what is that experience like?
What do you do as an intern, our main task is every semester we have overnights that are that prospective students of color or of multicultural backgrounds can attend to kind of get a feel of what Trinity is like. So we spend most of each semester preparing for those main events. We have to find, other students of color who are willing to host them in their rooms, events for them to attend on campus. Usually we have like a panel of other students, to speak as well. Aside from that, we also we give tours on campus. So I am a campus tour guide, and it's great to have a lot of students of color giving tours as well, because when, students of color come to the campus to visit, it's nice to see a face that might look like yours, because otherwise you're walking around, you're like, there's nobody that looks like me here. I think that's very important. When I came to visit Trinity, one of my tour guides was actually of color, and that actually persuaded how what school that I wanted to apply to, because that was very unique.
Your younger cousin, Callie, I heard is very good on the flute as well.
She is. She's trying to beat me.
She's trying to. Do you guys ever practice together? Do you ever practice together?
We play together often. Not right now because obviously I'm in Connecticut and she's in New York. But we used to do a lot of gigs together where we performed at church prayer groups. A lot of times over Christmas time we would play carols together. She's actually, I would say she's great at the piano. I mean, she's great at both, but she's phenomenal at the piano. So usually she'll play the piano and I'll play the flute. She'll accompany me. She's fantastic. She has a music amazing. Ability as well.
That's amazing.
Runs in the family.
If you were to describe her style, does she have a style, a flute style that you can?
I don't think she has a flute style. My style or my younger cousin's style?
Sorry?
Are you referring?
Oh no, your younger cousin.
I'm not sure what her style is. Because I'm here, over the past 2 years when I've been at college, she's definitely grown as a musician. So I don't really get to see it as much as I would like to. But whenever I get the chance, I definitely check in with her. She also attends Luzerne Music Center camp that I had attended, and she loves it. She's gone for like 5 years. So she's a little more motivated in the music than I was at her age.
Was there a time when you guys, just one more question about her, is there a time when you guys, or you were present when she played a particular piece that made you say, oh my gosh, wow?
There was. I want to say it was fairly recently. She was playing a piece that I played a few years ago, and she's more advanced than I was at her age because she started earlier. So she was playing a piece, and hearing it, the same piece that I used to play and that I love, coming out of her instrument was just a moment where I was like, wow, we share the same talent, and she's great. And I could just really appreciate her playing that piece, and she played it so well and so beautifully. I was proud of her. It was great. It's
wonderful. Tell us about how do you balance such a busy school life and your personal life?
It's a everyday struggle, day at a time. I actually find relief through things like Tasibo or working as a pride leader. So that's kind of like where I find the trade-off. I don't really see them as work. I see them more as like me advancing who I am. And it's more of like a for me type of thing. So I don't feel like it's not too much. But when it does become too much, in Tasibo or whatever it is, I know that I can look at people like, hey, I'm a little overwhelmed right now. Would you mind, taking over this task? Or I have a lot going on academically. Do you mind if, I sit this meeting out? So it's hard to balance, but it's a day-to-day at a time. And if you're really passionate about school, which I am, and then also about Tasibo, you make time for it and you figure it out.
Callie Blaine said classical.
Oh, that's her favorite.
Yeah.
Yes, classical is her favorite. Oh, I didn't know.
Let's take sorry.
She liked to play a lot of like contemporary songs on the piano as well, so I thought that was her favorite was.
We're gonna have her on one day.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Give us a glimpse into a day in the life of Courtney. Courtney the student, and then Courtney the musician.
Well, in terms of like my schedule this semester, I was up at 8:00 in class until about 2, and then after around 2, I would have meetings, meetings for either work or Tasibo, and after those meetings, that's when there's homework time. So my days were very long. So I didn't find much relief through the week. Weekends were much more like lie in bed, watch Netflix, catch up on my me time. Whereas during the week was very much, this one thing after the next until it was time to go to sleep. So that's kind of the day in the life of me, work.
How's your exams? How are your exams?
I just finished today. I'm officially done with my sophomore year. Exams went well. Some were more challenging than I expected, but I'm expecting very good results this semester.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Let's take a quick break.
Sure.
All right. We are back with the lovely Courtney Roach. Courtney, what was it? What is it like being on stage, and do you ever get nervous?
I don't. I surprisingly don't really get Actually, that's a lie. I usually don't get nervous until I'm about to go up, and then I get the kind of butterflies in my stomach. But as soon as I start to play, they instantly go away. Being on stage is it's an incredible feeling. The idea that you're just commanding an entire audience and everyone's just listening to you. It's overwhelming, but it's also just a great feeling. And then the applause at the end, the gratification, that you're appreciated, that your talents are appreciated. It's a great feeling.
And when you're up there, when you play with your cousin, what is gratifying about that?
Well, I mean, part of what's gratifying is often when I play with my cousin, we're playing for the Lord. We're playing in church. So, it's just that feeling, that, we're offering our talents, we're sharing our gifts. And it's appreciated. The fact that it's appreciated or received well is just fantastic. Often when I play with my cousin, we usually play hymns. And, when the audience, sings along or hums along, it's just like the feeling, I can't really describe the feeling, but it's joy. It's definitely a positive feeling when you're getting a great feedback from the audience as well.
I'm going to attempt to put you on the spot a little bit.
Oh, no.
You are at, let's say, in church or Sunday school or even in school, in college, and a group of teenagers, young teenagers, 13, 14, 15-year-old, standing in front of you, and they're eager to learn to play the flute. They're eager to get into music. What will that conversation be like? What would you be telling them?
Well, first I would explain that it's not easy, and that it requires a lot of hard work and determination, but if they're willing, the payoff is great. So I definitely encourage people to pick up an instrument. I still want to learn different instruments. To this day, I want to learn how to play the cello. I haven't really taught anybody before. I actually used to teach Callie when she was younger, my little cousin. I taught her how to play the recorder. But I wouldn't mind teaching someone how to play, or at least trying to teach someone how to play. I wouldn't mind, trying to share my gift with other people in that way as well.
Mm-hmm. In the chat room, Kim asked, what do you like about Trinity?
What do I like about Trinity? There's a lot that I like about Trinity. My favorite thing about Trinity is the relationships that I found here, not just with other students, but with professors. A lot of my professors I now know on a personal level, which is, you don't find that in a lot of other colleges. Sometimes I go out to lunch with my professor or go out, for coffee and talk about real issues, not just what's in a textbook. And I think that's an experience that is very crucial to education, or at least, secondary college education, to realize that it's not all just about the books, but, like these academic advisors or academic scholars also, can discuss things about the world with you, or, everyday experiences.
Why do you think that is possible at Trinity College?
I think it's possible at Trinity because Trinity is so small. There's, the average, like my average economics class, maybe about 20 students at max. Most classes are about 15 or so. So, you really get that one-on-one attention with your professors that you don't get at a big university. Professors usually know you by name. I have a friend who she just her professor cooked her dinner the other day because the relationships that professors have with students are so close because there's only a couple kids in each class. So I think that's something that's great to get out of education, just to build a relationship with the professor. It's also great for networking in the future, or if you need letters of recommendation, they can write an honest and true recommendation about you because you weren't just a face in a classroom, but you were someone who, they had candid conversations with.
So if you had the opportunity to choose another college, would it still be Trinity?
I would say yes. I actually applied early decision here, which means that it's a binding contract. So, if you get in, you are required to go. And I didn't mind. So I didn't apply to other schools. I applied to Trinity and Trinity alone. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it because of the friends I've made here, the relationships I've made here. And I feel like I'm prospering here. I feel like it's the right type of community for me. I feel like I found the right fit where I'm able to be comfortable in this community. So I wouldn't pick another school. I'm happy here.
You mentioned relationship, you're vice president of Pride and all these things, and groups, organizations are about relationships. How important is relationship or are relationships to your life?
Relationships are very important. I think without close relationships, whether it be, like I said, to an advisor or a friend or a family member, you need someone who you can have honest and deep conversations, true conversations, revealing conversations with someone who truly cares about you. And I think you can't have that until you're, relationships, you only get out of a relationship what you put into it. And until you're ready for a relationship like that, it's hard to come by. So I didn't feel like I had relationships in high school that I have now, which is actually quite interesting.
Camille in the chat room said you experienced a personal crisis as you were about to enter your senior year of high school. Tell us how you handled that.
The crisis she's referring to is my father passed away the summer before my senior year.
Oh.
Which, he was sick for a couple of years. So, although in my back of my mind I knew it was coming, it was still fairly unexpected. And I took a lot out of that. I think the main thing that I took out of that is, now that I'm living life through him or for him. And everything I do, I hope that it pleases him. He actually, part of the reason why I applied to Trinity is because he really liked this school when I was applying. He was like, Trinity is a good fit. And I was like, you know what, Dad was right. I'm going to apply to Trinity. And I loved it. I don't regret it. So I feel like through that experience, I've learned to, I would say he inspires me still to this day where I want to please him, and everything I do, I hope that he's proud of, and I know he probably is. So.
Wonderful. How do you manage to stay focused in school, and how do you find time for your music activities?
It's difficult. Focusing in school, especially in the spring when it gets nice out, is not easy. But then balancing music, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes ends up being an escape from the academic side. So it's something that I'm still struggling and working with. And I think every semester I find different ways to push myself or to encourage myself, or whether it is finding a new place to study, or reaching out to different people for to have study sessions with, pushing yourself to stay on top of your work. Every semester I try something different, and hope, and the outcomes have been positive. I've definitely seen growth in how I focus over the past 4 semesters here.
Have you ever had to counsel another student who might be having a hard time adjusting to college life? And if so, what would you have told them?
Well, at the through the Pride program, I actually have encountered a few students who did come to me for advice on getting adjusted, especially at the beginning of the school year. And I would say my main advice to them, what I told them, what I would tell to any incoming freshman is, that it gets better. It's weird adjusting to college. You're on your own. The expectations are much higher. You have all this free time and no one to tell you what to do or when to do your work. And it's overwhelming at first for anybody, no matter what high school you came from and how prepared you thought you might have been. College is overwhelming. So I would say to anybody, whether they're struggling academically or socially, that just push through it, because it can't be bad forever. And after a semester goes by, you find out what you're interested in, or you find something where you find your release, or you find something like what Tasibo was for me, where I could really grow outside of the academic world. Like, you find your place on campus and you find what you're good at, and you experiment a little, and it just it becomes so much easier.
What was it like for you the first day in college? What was it like?
The first day in college I was nervous, I was excited, I didn't know what to do with myself. Going to classes was, it was just it was overwhelming. I would say the hardest thing that I had to deal with the first couple weeks was figuring out what to do with my time. Time management is huge in college. In high school, you have, block periods, like you have study sessions or study hall, and then you go home and you do homework. But, in college, like, sometimes I only have one class a day, and the rest of the day is up to me. And at the beginning of the semester, I'd be like, okay, it's time to nap, or it's time to go to the mall. And I quickly realized, like, hey, Courtney, that's not working out. So that's something that I had to grow into and kind of realize. Time management is big in college, and I didn't expect that. So at first I was a little too free. And I had to realize, I had to, humble myself and be like, all right, well, I need to actually focus and, get my life on track.
Just for other young people that are listening tonight, let's go to that point you made about, hey, Courtney, this is not working out. Why wasn't it working out? Why would going to the mall and not, utilizing the time efficiently not be working out?
Well, when I realized it wasn't working out is when you get grades back. And it's like, well, this is not what I expected. This is not what I can do. I can do much better than this. And then you have to think, well, why am I not performing to the best of my ability? And it's a lot of self-reflection. So at first it was like, oh, well, I'm not, getting grades that I want because, this is hard adjusting, or, the classes are too hard. But, the classes aren't too hard. I just wasn't taking them. I wasn't taking them seriously. Mm-hmm. So, you really have to self-reflect and, set guidelines. So for the first couple weeks of school, I had every hour of my day planned out ahead of time. Otherwise, I would fool around or, not work out. I wouldn't be productive. So I would definitely say to, the students who are coming into college, buy a planner, figure out, what you're going to do with all of your time. And if you're not doing something right, it's going to show academically.
How did you handle distractions? How do you handle distractions now?
The way I handle distractions are sometimes good. Sometimes you need a break. The way I handle distractions when I'm studying, I like to study in, I don't really study in the library anymore. I find that the library is not a productive place to study, especially during finals. Everybody's there, and sometimes you need somewhere to be by yourself. So often I study in my room by myself, or, in a quiet space, like in a classroom or something like that, where, limited distractions. But then, sometimes it's good, take a study break, go on Facebook, or call a friend, or, listen to some music. So you need distractions, but you also have to monitor, like, how much you're being distracted, and when it becomes detrimental.
If you had some spare time, and you wanted to relax with a book, and your favorite beverage and some music, what would that book be? What would that beverage be? And what music will you be listening to?
So in terms of the book, I like to read a lot of like the bestsellers because I really would read anything. So I have a Kindle and I usually just download whatever's like the top of the month or whatever. And I would read anything. So I don't have a specific book that I would read. Although my favorite book is To Kill a Mockingbird.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
I've read that book like 1,000 times. And each time I find it just as enjoying as the last time. In terms of a beverage, I really like, I mean, recently I've taken up drinking a lot of water because I'm trying to be healthier. I don't really drink coffee, so definitely tea. I love tea. And music-wise, I don't have a specific music genre. You know, sometimes depending on my mood, it might be classical or, you know, it might be hip-hop or pop. You know, it depends on my mood. Like, if you go through my playlist on iTunes, you would be completely confused because there's no commonalities between, you know, the top one and the bottom one. I'm pretty open to a lot of music genres. I just like to explore new things in general, whether, like I said, you know, reading-wise or music-wise, you know. I'm pretty open.
You're classically trained, and I'm just tempted to ask you this question. Which of the composers would you say their style of composing mirrors this attitude you have towards music, where they take chances and they experiment? Who would you say was like that?
Well, definitely wouldn't be Bach. I feel like he played it by the book. I wouldn't say, I don't feel like classical movement was the time for, you know, experimenting. So I would definitely say more modernized music, like early 1900 music, or like even the 2000s. Like there's a lot of music out there where even like with the flute, you're not just playing notes, like they make you make different noises with your instrument, or, you know, like clamp keys, where it's different, it's very versatile. And I feel like that's so different, where in classical it's like these are the rules and you follow these rules. And then as you break into like the impressionistic movement with like Debussy and such, that's kind of like where I like the middle ground, where it's, you know, there's still some rules, but there's a lot of like, you know, like new things like dissonance when two chords don't really match but they still work, or that sort of thing. That's what I really like.
You're really passionate about this stuff, huh?
Yeah. I am.
if given a chance to compose, would you?
I don't know. I was given the opportunity. I actually was a part of this first year seminar called InterArts, and it's for students who consider themselves to be artists. And through that, you know, we learned how to like foster our creativity. And I actually found in that course that composing isn't really for me, or at least not right now. I feel like I find more enjoyment, you know, playing music that's already written and, you know, putting my own emotions into it, rather than actually composing. However, my younger cousin might feel different. I feel like she has that composer soul in her.
We'll find out from her when she comes on.
Yes, you will.
Kim asked, have you ever missed notes, and how do you deal with that? I guess she meant when you went on stage.
Oh, missed notes. I've made mistakes on stage all the time. What I've learned through all the years is that you just play it off like you didn't. And most of the time, the audience has no idea. I remember a lot of my concerts, I would come off stage and, you know, my mom would be like, oh, that was so great. You know, you were fantastic. I'm like, but I messed up that whole section. And she'd be like, what section? It's not even apparent. So if you just keep playing and owning it like it's like you're doing the great job that, you know, you're portraying to be, no one really knows. So it's when you stop and you make like a face like, oh, I messed up, that's when it becomes, you know, a different thing. But I feel like I'm now to the point of my career, I make a mistake and you keep playing.
Paula asked, said, you are so wise for one so young. How do you stay grounded?
How do I stay grounded? My friends ground me. My friends here, you know, we give each other reality checks like, hey, you know, you're doing well at this, but you still need to work on this. Or, you know, like, you know, you're doing, you know, what you're doing is great, but you have to remember to stay humble. And my mom also humbles me a lot. She'd be like, girl, like, like, you have to remember where you came from and the fact that there's always room for improvement. I think that's really important to remember that there's always room for improvement. You may think you're the best, but there's always someone better than you. And there's always someone who's going to beat you at something. So you never stop working.
Did you ever miss home a lot in the beginning?
I did miss home. I find I actually miss home more now this semester than I did like freshman year. Probably because freshman year I was like, oh, I'm free, but now it's like, I miss my mom, miss my cousin. And also I also miss it like when they have like family gatherings and I'm not there, or I get pictures and I'm so jealous. But I try to go home fairly often, not too often. I'm only about 2 hours away, so maybe like once every 2 months I go home. I'm excited to go home on Saturday. You have no idea.
Let's take a break. Courtney, Paula in the chat room asks, do you mentor anyone, and would you like to if you don't?
I do some mentoring. I mentor with the Girl Scout troop that my organization works with. Every so often we meet with the girls, and for example, a couple weeks ago they actually came to Trinity and we gave them a tour of campus, and we talked about college. I mean, although they're young, they're like maybe in the fifth grade or so. It's still good for them to see, Black women on campus on, this Trinity College, which is big to them, which is great. Other mentoring, I don't do as much. I did tutoring in the past. I worked at a tutoring center for about 3 or 4 summers, which was almost like It was almost like mentoring because you had to really get to know the kids in order to teach them well. I find the best way to teach the kids is like to understand, how they'll learn or what motivates them. So I do some mentoring.
What do you enjoy most about college?
What do I enjoy most about college? I would say what I enjoy most about my college experience so far is just how much I've found myself. I really enjoy like the different things that I participate that awaken something in me or reveal something about myself that I didn't know. Just like I didn't know I wanted to be a part of a Black women's organization when I came here, but now it's such a huge part of me where I'm working my way to be president eventually of that organization. So I would say that's what I enjoy most about my college experience. Also, the relationships, like I mentioned earlier, obviously the freedom from, not my mom, but, I love her and everything, but, it's good to be on your own and to gain that independence. A lot of students who don't study away don't really get that living away or living away from home experience.
What would you say still surprises you about yourself?
What still surprised me? I'm surprised at how often I leave my comfort zone. I'm not a shy individual, but I have my limits. But often, I'll do something and be like, wow, like for example, doing this, I would never expected myself to, to do something like this and have a conversation with you like this. But I do surprise myself every once in a while where I'm like, I didn't think I could do this, but I can, and it encourages me to try different things in the future. And not to limit myself to what I've done, but also be open to things that I might not know that I like or might not know that I might be good at or even want to do.
What is one thing about you that most people do not know that might surprise them?
A lot of people actually don't know that I play an instrument. As big as is it a part of my life, a lot of people don't know. When I was in middle and lower school, I didn't really want to talk about it because people used to call me like a band geek or whatever. I wasn't proud of it because, but as I've grown older, like now I tell people more like, oh, I play the flute, or you should come to my concert. So a lot of people, even recently, my friends would be like, oh, I didn't know you played an instrument, but not my close friends, but like, other people. So people don't realize that I have that other side to me, that, that creative and like musical side. Which is weird, actually.
Norma Jackman asks, Courtney, will you be studying abroad while in college?
I do plan to study abroad. My goal is to study at this program in Cambridge, England next spring. It's an economics program. It's actually very hard to get into, so I'm hoping for the best. If not there, maybe study abroad in Paris. We have a Trinity campus in Paris that a lot of students study abroad at. But I have traveled a lot in the past, whether it be for fun. I've been to Bermuda with my mom, or Italy with my aunt and my uncle and my grandma. I actually went to Kenya in high school to do community service trips, which was great. So I've traveled a lot. So even if I don't get the opportunity to study abroad, I won't feel like I missed out too much, just because I've traveled quite a bit in my 20 years.
What stood out for you in, or a memorable experience you had in Italy and in Kenya?
Italy, I don't recall too much. I was about 13. But what I gained the most out of Italy was the amount of culture that was within a city, or amount of history that was in a city. Just for example, like walking through Rome, I remember, like you'll see all this modern stuff, buses, cars, and then all of a sudden it's the Colosseum, like right in the middle of the city. And I really like that about Italy. I actually would love to go back. There's just like so much history that's still preserved there, and it's like just a part of their everyday life. In Kenya, words cannot describe the experience I had in Kenya. It was one of the best 2 weeks of my life. Down there, we worked to help rebuild parts of a secondary school in a small village, and so we got to spend a lot of time working with kids. We actually were allowed to teach a math class, which was great. And it was going to Kenya was just so very humbling. You learn that all the stuff that we worry about, a lot of the stuff we worry about here in America don't really matter. They have so much less than we do, yet somehow they're 10 times happier. So I've learned that, sometimes removing yourself from all that technology and all that, privilege is what really gets you to the point of, true happiness. Because, these people were the people that I met there were, sometimes they had so little, but the smiles on their faces were just heartwarming. So that really, taught me a lot, that trip to Kenya.
What is the least helpful advice anyone has ever given you, and how did it motivate you?
The least helpful advice. I think the least helpful advice would be just to conform. I don't remember who told me, but someone just told me, oh, just go along with everybody else does, or just act like that. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. At least not to me. To me, it's, that's a form of peer pressure. And peer pressure can happen in any place, whether it's the workplace or, high school. And I think that's motivated me even more to be an individual, or to stand out in a crowd of people who look alike, or, act alike, or have, to be different. It's okay to be different. And that's something that is not easy to embrace. It's not easy, especially in college, to be the one person that's different. It wasn't easy for me, to be like, oh, yes, I'm part of this ensemble. When people, always want to label you, oh, she's like a music nerd or whatever. But I don't care. It's that's who I am. And, people, you either take it or you leave it. I'm proud of it. And I'm glad that I'm different, or that I have those unique talents.
Do you think being at a smaller college helped you to manage peer pressure better than if you were at a larger college?
I feel like peer pressure, well, I don't have larger college experience, but I think peer pressure in smaller colleges actually might be more concentrated, just because in such a community, such a small as Trinity, there may be 2,300 students here. Everybody knows each other, and everyone knows each other's business. So, there is a lot of peer pressure, and there's a lot of oh, she didn't do this, or she did do this. Whereas you might just be a fake to someone at a bigger college. So I think it's harder to escape, the peer pressure, and harder to escape the mainstream in a smaller community. Just because everybody knows your face, or, knows your name, or, who you associate with.
Who are some black women you admire and respect for their courage and strength?
My mom, first and foremost. She's been through a lot, but she's still very strong, and she inspires me every single day. Also, I recently met a woman within the Hartford community named Teresa Younger. She came and spoke at one of our events, and she was just fantastic. She does a lot with the Girl Scout community. She works in like the Senate, or she works in Senate within Connecticut or something with law. I'm not very sure what she does, but she's one of the only in her field, and she's excelling. She's still at the top, so she definitely inspired me. Another woman that I came across, her name was Marilyn Ford. She came to another one of our Tasibo events, actually a couple weeks ago, and she came and she spoke and she told a story about, it was the most extreme story from rags to riches. She came from nothing, where she, she lived on like she lived on a field where like her parents used to like pick cotton, and that's what she used to do. She didn't even go to like school, and now she's the top in one of she was became one of the top top lawyers in her firm, and now she teaches at Quinnipiac College, and she's living her life very well. And that definitely inspired me, because even though I don't come from the rags that she came from, but it shows that anybody can make it if you just have enough determination. And I think those are the best stories. The people who show that like you can go from having nothing, but with determination and perseverance and determination, you can get it all.
Do you have a favorite hobby, and if so, what is it?
A favorite hobby. I mean, if you classify playing music a hobby, I guess that would be it. Otherwise, I would say one of my hobbies is probably reading. Although in college, you don't get to read a lot leisurely. There's not a lot of opportunities because you're doing work all the time. So I do miss that. Also, when I was younger, I did a lot, and I still do, obviously, but I did a lot within like the student government in high school, and I kind of missed that type of leadership. I was like class president of my senior class, so that sort of thing, like that activism or representation. I don't do as much on this campus, or I do it, but not on a large scale like I did in high school, where it was like president of the student government. Now it's more like it's more specific and more defined.
What is gratifying about being Courtney Roach?
What is gratifying? Everything is gratifying about me. I just, I'm at the point in my life where I'm content with who I am. And although I know that I will improve and get better, I love who I am. I wouldn't change anything about myself. I think that point of acceptance is a point that is really gratifying, when you reach that point in your life where you truly accept who you are, for all your faults and all your weaknesses, and realize that things do get better, but just accepting who you are, and that was gratifying to me, that I've reached that point at an early age too, I guess. A lot of people don't reach it until much older.
That is true. When are you most happy?
When am I most happy? I think I'm most happy when there's two occasions. I'm most happy when I'm with family. Just because my family, we're so funny. We laugh, we share, intimate stuff, and we have great conversations. So I think that's part when I'm happiest. My other happiest moments are when I'm actually walking my dog. I have a dog named Nico. I love him to death, but walking him gives me a lot of time to just think. And that kind of like specific me time where it's just you and your surroundings is very. I really enjoy that time. So I think that's also when I'm happiest, when your mind is kind of clear and you're just doing one specific task and you're able to just be free. That's probably when I'm also happiest.
What is your favorite word?
My favorite
Word.
word.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I have a favorite word. I've never asked that question before. My cousin and I have a word that we actually like. It's called tomfoolery. I just like the way that it sounds. She always uses it. Just means like silliness. But I don't know if I have a specific favorite word.
Okay. Can you tell us what you miss most about 16?
About being 16,
Hmm.
nothing much. I feel like 16 was an awkward time for me, where I didn't really know who I was or what I was doing with my life. Yeah, I don't even feel like I miss being 16. I like where I'm at. I wouldn't, you couldn't pay me to go back to high school, really. It's awkward years.
Mm.
You don't know who you are, what you're really doing, or, who your friends are, and there's too much trauma. So I would stick being 20
Finish the sentence. I look forward to Sunday evenings too.
to unwind.
How do you unwind?
Um, Thinking, listening to music, just not doing anything. Which actually is, being in college, I don't really get that opportunity because unfortunately Sundays are like work days, where everybody kind of gets done with all the homework that they need for the next day, for the next week. But at home, like after church, my mom and my mom cooks, and then we just lie in bed and either read or sleep or just alone to my thoughts. And it's a good time to just kind of like think about the week, think about the upcoming week, and just relax.
What are you most thankful for?
I'm thankful. What am I most thankful for? I'm thankful for a lot of things. I'm most thankful for the opportunities that I've been presented with, I should say. Um, Coming from, the area, a lot of the friends that I have in my neighborhood, they didn't reach the point where I reached, where they got to go to, a small liberal arts school, which is considered one of the little Ivies. Um, they don't get those opportunities. Some of them don't even attend college. And I was blessed with, parents who put me in private school from first grade through 12th grade. And, that just filtered into Trinity. So I'm blessed with the fact that my parents were, loving and supporting enough, to push me into that type of rigorous education at an early age that has resulted in, all the opportunities that I'm presented with today. So that's what I'm thankful for.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell the 15-year-old Courtney?
Hmm. I would tell, it's an interesting question. There's a lot I would tell 15-year-old Courtney. I would tell 15-year-old Courtney to be more comfortable with who she really was. 15's at a time, like 15, 16, from I think 13 until like 18 is like a time where you're kind of experimenting, figuring out who you are, and trying to be something that you might not be due to either peer pressure or just mainstream society. So I don't know who I was at 15. I wasn't who I am now. But I would just encourage 15-year-old me to stick with who I am and what I knew I was capable of, and just be true.
The last question, which I ask all my guests, what makes you laugh out loud?
What makes me laugh out loud? The main thing that makes me laugh out loud is when other people laugh. I laugh so much when someone's laughing really hard. That's what brings me joy. I love seeing other people happy. As cheesy as it might seem, like if my friend tells a joke, I might not find it funny, but if another friend starts cracking up, I'm gonna start laughing too. Just because seeing other people happy like that is something that brings joy, and that's what makes me laugh.
Courtney, thank you so very much.
Thank you so
You
much
know,
for having me on the show.
you're welcome. The other night when we were talking and you being on college and you said the Wi-Fi and so many people use it and it held up for a long time. At the end, I can tell more and more people came on because your picture gets got a little pixelated. But we have to be thankful for you know you being able to use it and it was very good
Yes, it
throughout the
definitely
show.
cooperated.
But thank you for being so candid and you're eloquent. You're very brilliant and articulate young lady. I,
Thank you
I
very
I have a
much.
lot of respect for you. So now you are a woman of CWS, and of course I will invite you to return sometime later
I
and
look forward to it.
talk to us about you. I'm sure by then you would have graduated and gone on to bigger and better things, but we'll definitely invite you. Thank you.
Thanks for the
Anything you want to
opportunity.
say? Any parting words?
I just want to thank everyone who listened. It was great sharing my story with everyone. So I'm thankful for this opportunity to share my story and my experiences. So thank you so much, Selvin.
Welcome, Courtney. Quite
Thanks.
welcome. Thank you, and have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.